Hi guys, welcome back to Brewery Made. Today we have a bigger project than usual. I'm a little bit intimidated by it, but we're going to go ahead and we're going to learn as we go. We like to challenge ourselves on this channel. So, got a bunch of pallet wood for the pallet top, but I have got some red oak as well. I did strip down this cabinet thing that was apparently oak. So, we'll be using that to veneer over the top of this because I don't have a long enough bit to make the full bar top, and the parts that are long enough, they're very thin. So I thought I'll make the tabletop out of pallets, and then I'll put the oak on top of this to make it all look nice. So I went out, I got as many pallets as I could in my mother's car, drove around for a bit.
Oh, yeah, something I can't be good. You make me harder, make me stronger.
And just to address last week, sorry I didn't upload. A lot of things came up, and I didn't have time to record a video. But we're here now, so enjoy. Let's get cracked on with the build. So first thing, like always, we're going to go ahead and we're going to get a straight edge on all of our bits of pallet wood. I like to use the fence as a sort of a jointer because I have a nice long fence, and well, I always seem to get a straight edge when I run it straight through, so I never really have the need for any jigs. It's only when the bits of pallet wood that I have are really bent is when I really need a jig. But these slats of pallets were pretty straight to come out with anyway, so giving them a quick buzz on the table saw was all they really needed. And I have a nice long fence on the table saw, so it's all it needs. But in future, if you are trying to use your table saw as a jointer, there are plenty of YouTube videos out there that include jigs and stuff you can make, or you can get a long straight bit of wood and extend your fence, and that should do basically the same thing. And with the knowledge that we acquired from a previous video about glue myths, we're only going to pinch these up in the clamps that have an optimal glue up. While our bar top is drying up, I ran to B&Q and I got some, I don't even know what these are. I got wood. For each one of these, there are £3.87 each. Got 6 of them for £22, 30 odd pence or something. I can't remember. But we got this. While it's drying up, we're going to start making the frame that the bar top's going to sit on, and we're going to clad the frame with pallet wood. I'm not quite sure how I'm going to finish it. I don't know whether to paint it or stain it or do what with it, but we're gonna just wing it as we're going. But we're gonna get all these cut up. So let's go ahead and do that. So when I was doing this at the time, I had no idea what the hell I was doing. I just thought, right, I'm just gonna do the 3 corners, the 3 posts, because this is shaped like an L. So as long as I get those 3 posts in, put some little blocks in for shelving, then hopefully I can figure out the rest. And we managed to crack on and we managed to get it done. There was a little bit of struggle here and there. I managed to stab myself with a screwdriver, as you'll see here. It's a shame it was on a time lapse, so you didn't get to hear and see me. We'll go around my shed, but I put a nice hole in my t-shirt and scraped my stomach. Luckily, I didn't punch in my skin, but you know, we live and learn. So when you're using a long drill bit like that, make sure the piece you are drilling into is nice and sturdy and you're not applying too much pressure down. So keep yourself safe. But getting back to the project, we are nearly done with putting these parts on. These are just going to be our little struts on either side. I'd compare them a bit like a stud wall. In my head, I was thinking of this project a bit like making a stud wall and then adding the framing around it. I don't know if that makes any sense to you guys, but it makes sense in my head. I never really have a plan in mind when I'm making these projects. I sort of just have the idea in my head. I might do a little sketch or a drawing, but I like to just get my hands dirty in the workshop and work it out for myself. And here's one of the downsides of having a small workshop. I'm really struggling to flip this around and find a way where I can screw the rest of this stuff in. So I just have to keep trying different options until I find one that works. And there we go. If I just flip it on its side, then I can glue it and screw it here. But yeah, I just spent the majority of my time just putting it on bit by bit, giving it a good look, being like, okay, where do we need our next chunk of wood to go, and playing it like that. So I'd recommend, even if you are intimidated getting into projects and stuff, best thing you can do is just crack on and get on with it and work it out as you go along. Mistakes will be made, but lessons will be learnt too, and your next project will be a lot easier. So just get yourself in the workshop, get your hands dirty, and you'll make something. I don't know if it'll be good, but you'll definitely come out with something. And I'm hoping this will be good. I've got high hopes for it so far, but this is only part one, isn't it? We'll find out in part two if it's all good. But yeah, because I didn't plan any of this, I did struggle to find room to put screws in certain areas, but we managed to get it done. So I just recommend you get in the workshop and you do it. Alright guys, the frame is done and the top is dry. Now what we got to do is got to plane the top. We got to get those oak slats and somehow veneer them on top. Now when I say veneer, this stuff isn't like a proper veneer where it's only like a few millimeters thick. You put an iron on it and it sticks down and it's dead easy to work with. This stuff is roughly about a centimeter or so thick, and I got no idea how I'm going to do this seamlessly because I can't really clamp it like this because it will just fold and buckle, and I can't really just rely on pushing it down and hoping for the best. So I'm not sure how we're going to do this, to be completely honest with you guys. Let's just go ahead. Let's get the top surface plane down. So we at least got a flat level there to work on, and we'll try a few things to get this veneer on properly. I don't know. Let's give it a shot, guys. Another example of just getting stuck in and getting your hands dirty, not having a clue what you're doing. But we managed to get it done in the end. But I will say here, maxing out the capacity on my surface planer was an absolute headache. It kept getting jammed, and I had to take really, really light cuts. This is a pretty old, beaten up surface planer, so I imagine it hasn't got all the horsepower that it did when I first got it. But we still managed to get it all planed, and we have a nice little flat surface. And you'll notice I didn't put it on any jig or any sort of things. When I glued it all up, I made sure that all the boards were flat to the piping clamps that I have, or pipe clamps, I should say, and it was flat, so I didn't feel the need to come out and glue it down to any boards or anything, and it worked out pretty well. And here is what I was talking about before with the fence. These are a lot longer slats, and I wanted a straight edge along it, so I just got a long gnome piece of straight wood and clamped it on there, and it worked perfectly well. I got everything nice and straight, and now we're going to go ahead and we're just winging this part here. My first idea was nail it down to the table so I can have, I can put force on it without it moving around everywhere, and putting a bit of super glue on the edge and activator on the other and pressing it down with my fingers. I still didn't have a clue of how I was going to apply downwards pressure so the two boards can be squeezed together, but I thought as long as I get this first part and as long as I get the veneer all stuck together on top, I can work out how I'm going to clamp it or what I'm going to put on top of it to push the oak down onto the pine. And also, I know these are two different species of wood. I'm not entirely sure how they're going to adhere to each other because I've had it in the past where certain species just doesn't accept wood glue at all. I've actually thrown out a lot of wood. I don't know what type of wood it was, but I threw out a lot of it because wood glue just wouldn't stick to it. So hopefully these two species are compatible and they glue together. But I think it'll be fine. It's oak and pine in it, so I've glued oak to pine before and it's worked fine. This is red oak, so hopefully it all works out together. Sorry, my camera died halfway through recording this, but we got everything clamped up now. As you can see, it's an absolute mess. I ran out of clamps, so what I ended up doing is getting some boards, putting a screw through them to clamp it down. I was thinking about putting some screws going upwards, but I have got a surface plane these again to make sure they're all flat, and I don't want to accidentally hit one. So, I don't know. I might put some screws in and then back them out before I go and do the planing. But right now, this is the setup I got. Hopefully, everything's sitting flush and it's a strong glue up, and hopefully, it can be nice and seamless. Well, as you can see here, it's not really seamless, but actually, that's the part that's hanging off, so it doesn't really matter too much. But nothing a little bit of wood glue and sawdust can't fix. So that's going to be the end of this video. I really thought I'd get a lot more done in the time that I've had, but this frame and messing around with this veneer and stuff. It's taken me all day to get this veneer and stuff all done. And sorry you didn't see it all. My phone died halfway through recording, and I didn't realize, so I carried on. I only managed to get this part recorded, but the whole thing, it's all in the clamps now. We still need to do the sides of it. We still need to cut the 45-degree for the bend in the corner there. So there is a lot more work left to do. I messed the table up. I messed it up big time, and I am so angry. Basically, came in the workshop this morning, full of ambition. I was ready to go, raving like, yes, let's get this bar top table done. I am so happy with this project so far. Let's get it on with. But I decided to mess it up. See, I thought the table base was perfectly square. I spent my time making sure each joint that I put together was nice and square. Somehow, the whole thing isn't square though. Each individual bit that I've glued together seems to be square, but when I measure the actual L that goes like that, it's out of square. No idea how it happened, but we live, we learn, we cry ourselves to sleep, and we get up the next day and have another go at it. But unfortunately, today is not the next day. I am not having another go at the table. I am going to be doing the cladding. We'll do the table later on in the video, but right now I'm stressed. So I've got some more pallets. Let's strip down some more pallets and get cladding this. And later on in the video, we'll have a crack at the table. Right, now that I've chilled out a little bit, my little paddy's over, let me explain this a little bit better. Well, the table base wasn't square, so obviously when I came to cut the miter joint, it wasn't a perfect 45-degree angle I had to cut. And I don't really have much measuring equipment to measure the right angle, so I was just sort of winging it and hoping I could find the right angle. Eventually, after doing so many cuts, I ran out of length, so I just went ahead and scrapped the bin and decided to start over again, probably for the best. But anyway, while I'm stripping apart all these pallets, would you believe this took me a whole day to strip down all of these pallets, get everything all milled up, sanded, and cut into the right shape? It was an absolute nightmare. As you can tell, this video is very fast paced at the minute, just because it was that much repeated work, and this happened. At first, I thought the brushes just needed changing, so I went and ordered some new brushes, installed them, and I just kept blowing fuses. I took it all apart and checked the actual motor, and turns out there's a massive chip taken out of the actual connection part where it all connects. So that's out of commission for now, sadly. Alright, so here's how the bar's looking so far. Sorry I can't get any proper shots. I am currently using up a lot of my workshop space with this bar here, so I only really have this to stand in. But the cladding all looks nice. That's all going to get painted black, and we're going to be putting some oak strips going across it and stuff to hide all the nail holes. But now we're going to be working on the bar top, and this is what I've decided I'm going to do for the bar. But as you can see, I want a little bit of overhang, and it's not overhanging very much, and we have these little notches cut out on the side of it. So what I need to do is get these bits of oak. We're going to attach them on the end, and we're also going to do some breadboard ends as well to make it a little bit longer on either side. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to get cracked on with that now. It might look a bit mismatch, but with what I have in my head, I think it should look good. Just a little bit iffy on how to do it all, but we'll get there in the end, so stay tuned. Right, so the plan I came up with was I'm just going to get some spare bits of oak. I'm going to cut some 50mm strips out of it to make a sort of border going round the bar. So I have seen on bars before, they do have like a bit of wood that's overhanging a little bit. And at first I was going to try find a piece that closely matched the grain, but I thought it's probably better if it stands out. It ended up matching the grain pretty well, so that was a mess up on my half. But I kind of wanted it to be separated from the piece so you could sort of see that it was a separate piece. Could you see that on bars? But yeah, I'm just going around and squaring everything up, ready to glue up. You'll notice I cut 2 smaller strips out as well. That's just to hide the little notches that are out of this. But like I said in the last video, they're from the cabinet that this wood was actually harvested from. I found a listing on Facebook Marketplace for 40 quid for an oak cabinet, and I thought, oh, I could use a lot of that wood. So that's where all those notches came from. Those are all the notches that came in for the shelves and stuff. So to hide them, we're just doing a bit of a veneer on one half and an overhanging bit on the edge. not even sure if you'd even class it as a veneer if it's on the side. I don't know. I'm going to go ahead and call it a veneer. But because the surface plane is out of commission, we're going around with a trusty hand plane. Well, it's not even a hand plane. It's a bespoke shave or something like that. But we're using that just to take the edges down. And then I'm just cutting everything up, making sure everything fits up nice and seamlessly. I'm going to go ahead and cut the breadboard ends, but as you can see here, I was about to make a stupid cut, give my head a wobble, marked off where I needed it to be, flipped it over, and did the cut properly and safely. I was using the edge of the table saw as my reference of how long these pieces needed to be, so that's why I was attempting to make a stupid cut like that. And I didn't actually notice this as well, but turns out I didn't take a screw out of this bit of wood here, and you can hear it in the cut where it hits the screw. Now I didn't notice it in person. It wasn't until the very last cut where I was like, "Oh, what was that?" And then I saw the screw, and I was like, "God!" But my blade just absolutely chewed through it. It was perfectly fine, so I'm happy with that. And if you see here, we're making a comeback with these plugs. As we saw from a previous video that I did, adding dowels actually does strengthen a joint in some cases. So I'm going to go ahead and put dowels in the end of these breadboard ends, because it is end grain going to side grain, so it's not the strongest joint. So putting these dowels in where it's going to have a bit more surface area is going to be a good call. So cut all of them out with the plug cutter that I have, and I'm going to go ahead, use this little plastic cheap tool. I used it just so I could more easily find the center and hopefully drill a more straighter hole. It seemed to work, but there's probably better jigs and ways of doing it out there. And I didn't show it on here, but I did actually clamp all this up. I didn't just tap it all in and leave it like that. As we saw from the other video that I'm talking about, the one where we did all the glue experiments, just pushing things together without any clamps doesn't create a very good glue joint. Neither does absolutely wrenching it down in the clamps. It squeezes all the glue out, and that's not a very good glue joint. So we're just going to go ahead and pinch these up in the clamps, and you'll see in a second here a little mistake. Yeah, usually when you're doing such a long glue up like this, you want to put clamps going on in alternate directions, so it's pulling from both directions. And you see here, put the clamps on the top. I came back in, I put a little straight piece on the actual joint to prevent it from bending as I lifted it up to put a clamp underneath. That way it's pulling from both the top and the bottom, so it's not just going to pop out of the clamps like that. So do this in future. And to attach the tabletop to the base, I went out and I bought these little brackets here. I decided not to do anything fancy, since you're never going to see these, and we will be lining the inside of this with a little something in the future. I'm not going to say anything right now because this is only part 2, and this is probably going to be in part 3 or 4 where we do the inside. But yeah, I'm just going ahead. I'm using 10 of these to make sure we have as much surface area clamped down as possible. What I also did, because my surface planer has been out of commission, instead of making the shelves out of pallet wood, I decided to make it out of plywood. So I ran to B&Q, picked up a bit of plywood for 30 quid. Made a dodgy cut here. Please, please, please never do a cut like this on your table saw where you haven't got it up against a fence or a miter sled. Just doing it freehand. It's a really, really good way to get kickback and have it, fly into your face. So don't recommend doing the cut like that, but I'm stupid, so I can do it. Right now, I'm just measuring out where all the struts are going, so I can cut these out so we can put the shelving in. And I was very stupid and naive to think I could keep it all in one piece and one L and slide it in. Couldn't do it like that, so I ended up having to cut it into 2 pieces and do it separately and go around with a bunch of filler later on. But we live and we learn. Now that we have all those notches cut out, we're going to go ahead and we're just going to tack all these down with some nails. I can't really think of a better way to attach all of these, so my plan was I'm just going to go ahead, nail everything down. I'll go back around and sink all the nails and then come back in with filler, and then we'll get the cleanest look possible. I was just going to go ahead and glue these down, but I feel like that just gluing them down wouldn't stand the test of time and the mechanical connection would be better. Ah! So it turns out going to a nail salon isn't the only way to get a purple thumbnail. But anyway, we moved along. We tried very carefully not to hit our fingers. Did it a few more times, but you know, you have to hit your finger at least once or twice when hammering nails in. But we went round, we tacked all of these in, and we came back with a punch that went to go and sink all the nails to get it all ready for the filler, so we can come back in and fill it all up. But before we do the filler, we need to get the router out to get it all nice and flush with the frame around it. I cut these a little bit oversized so I could come back with the router to make sure everything's sitting flush with the outside. So when I put the trim on later on, it all sits nicely up against there. And then I got this fancy filler. It's like an epoxy sort of thing, so I could come back and sand it the same day. Filled in that crack and all the little nail holes, and yeah, sanded it all down, ready for painting. Right, guys, that's going to be the end of this video. As you can see, we've came a long way, but we have a long way to go. We need to paint the front of this. We need to put all the oak straps and stuff on it. Oak bands on it, because we need like skirting on the bottom. We're going to do a little strip along the top to match the top. But yeah, we have the shelves put in, we have the cladding on, we have the table glued up and ready to go. We just need to sand this down. One little thing I am a little bit worried about with sanding is that it seems like with these big boards, because these are just one big board, these aren't loads of glued up little boards. I glued up a little bit on the side and the ends, but the majority of these boards is just one piece of wood. It looks like it's warped a little bit, because when I first got it, I stripped all the varnish off with the surface planer, and I checked, it was all perfectly flat, but it looks like, especially this one seems to be okay, but this one looks like it's got a bit of a warp to it, so hopefully that will sand out. It only dips off about 1 or 2 millimeters either end, so I think my angle grinder attachment with some 40 grit sandpaper will make easy work of it, just to rip down the middle of it, get it all nice and flat. So yeah, that's what we're going to do in next video. Next video, we're going to be sanding this down, finishing off this tabletop, painting the front of it black, hopefully getting those oak skirting and little bands across all done. And then in the final video, I've got some accessories and some nice little things that I haven't never done on a project before. So look forward to that. But yeah, I have a feeling this is going to be a 4-part series. This would be part 2. So tell me if you like this project down below, or tell me if you want me to hurry up with it and get cracked on with something else. But I'm really excited about this project. I've learned a lot with this project. It's my biggest project. It's taken up a lot of room in the shed. I thought my desk build was quite big, but this is heavy and awkward to carry. At least with my desk, I could grab it and move it and stuff quite easily. It was just heavy and big. This is heavy and big and awkward. So yeah. Hi guys, welcome back to Barovia Made. Today we've got the bar project on. Yes, the bar project is back. Sorry that I missed it last week. It was just the project was doing my head in. So sometimes when a project's too much for you and it's doing your head in, take a step back, do something a little bit easier for a while, come back to it with a fresh mind. So I have a fresh mind and we're ready to go. I did do a little bit of work off camera. The tabletop, I flattened it and it was looking really, really thin, so thin that we wouldn't have been able to put any threaded inserts in it. So I decided to go to B&Q, buy some 18mm plywood, bump up the thickness a little bit, then go around the edge of it with the veneer. So the tabletop is a lot thicker now. It looks a lot nicer. It's just ready for a bit of sanding. All we need to do is we need to sand it, put some threaded inserts in it, put some lacquer on it. Then the tabletop is done. I'm not scrapping another tabletop. I was so close to scrapping this one, but I'm not doing it. We're keeping this tabletop. So yeah, after we've done that, we need to make some more cladding to go on the bar top base, and then we need to do the skirting for it. And then we're on the home stretch, guys. This project's nearly done. It has been doing my head in and really testing my abilities, but we're nearly done. We're nearly done. So let's quit talking. Let's get cracked on with the video. So you can see what I was talking about here with the plywood. I just put plywood on the bottom of it just to bump up the height a bit, strengthen the table a little bit, and then I went round, I sanded it all the way up to 320 grits. Then after sanding, I decided to get the router out and quickly go around the perimeter just to give it a quick round over. Sort of hides the end of the veneer part, so it all blends in a bit nicer. But I did notice I sanded a bit far and revealed one of the plugs. So, well, that tells you how much material I've moved off the top of this that we've managed to get down into the center of the piece. But easy enough. I just quickly did a quick inlay in it. Really didn't want to have to do this inlay because it ruins the look of the table a little bit, but it looked better than the plug that was already in there. So went around with some chisels and a router, quickly chiseled it all out. I kind of wish I waited for the dust to settle before doing this, because doing all this, trying to get close and look at where my lines are accurately with a visor on, was a right headache. But we got through it. I took my time with it, and we got it in all nice. And I do just want to apologize for this video in advance and last week of not posting this. This project has just really been testing my mental. So for a lot of this project, I've been doing it off camera just to get through it, and I was really upset about having to buy plywood to put underneath of this table to bump the height up a bit. But yeah, I'm trying to include as much as possible. I'm just trying to get this done as quick as possible as well. So bear with me. The finished product hopefully will be worth it all. But so far to get to this point, it's just been I, I haven't been so stressed over a project before. But anyway, the tabletop, we can finally call it good. So we're gonna crack open the lacquer, and I made a mistake when buying this lacquer. I didn't make sure that it was able to go in a spray gun, and I didn't think much of it, and I just put it straight into my spray gun, ready to go and spray. And as you'll see here in a second, it didn't quite work out, and I had a little bit of a panic on, and I was thinking, oh my god, everything's going wrong after another. Now that I've finally gotten to the end stage, and I've came and I've started spraying it all on, it's just not going on right. As you can see, the lacquer is too thick, and it clearly stays on the bottle not to thin out. So at this point, I just ended up grabbing my brush, trying to scrape as much of it off as possible, and trying to do a brush finish on it. But every time I do a brush finish, it just doesn't go well. So, but I managed to get this one looking somewhat decent. I just did a lot of sanding, doing another coat, sanding, doing another coat. But yeah. Anyway, to get these corners, what I've decided I'm going to do, instead of doing a skirting on the bottom and doing a bunch of fancy inlays and stuff, I'm just going to inlay 2 strips of oak going down and round over the rest of it. I think it's would be a lot more simple and elegant design rather than trying to get all traditional and fancy. I think this will look better in most people's homes with how things are designed nowadays. So, yeah. Used the router to recess it all in, went round with a chisel to clean it all up. Then I got some nails and I went round. I actually sunk these nails in with a center punch to make sure they were below the surface. And then I went back around with some wood glue and some sawdust to fill up all the holes. And then trimmed off the edges, came back with a flush trim bit, straightened it all out. And as you can imagine, working around this in my tiny little workshop, that's just been a headache in itself. I'm so ready to be done with this project. I just love to have some space back, and we're gonna do a nice, easy project for the next project coming up. But I'll have to do one more video of this. The series isn't completely done yet. The tabletop, the bar isn't completely done yet, so we've still got a bit of ways to go. But right here, I decided to back out all of the screws that I put in there, re-drill them out, fill them full of filler, and then I can go back around with all the sanding. Sanded those little oak strips that we put in, make sure they're all nice and flat. And I put some fill around it as well to make sure that it's a smooth transition from the oak to the wooden slats. And then I'm going to go back around and paint it all black. Right, guys, we're almost done with the project. I'm so tired of this project. Yesterday, I did 12 hours in this workshop trying to hurry up and get this project done. There's so many things that have been going wrong with it. I just want to get it over and done with. It's stressing me out. This has got to be the most stressful project I've done so far. And I thought, well, I knew this was going to be a little bit out of my comfort zone. It was a bit bigger than usual, especially in my tiny little workshop. But, oh my God, it's been driving me insane. But my red felt came. I'm gonna line the inside of the shelves with red felt, and then all I got to do is put on my little accessories. I painted it off camera. I've finished doing the lacquer on the tabletop. we need to put the threaded inserts in the tabletop so we can attach the tabletop. I've decided I'm going to leave the skirting because I feel like it's going to add too much to it, make the bottom look a bit bulky. But it was ever since I put those strips going downwards on either side of the red oak. After looking at it, I was thinking, it's gonna look a bit weird if I do the bottom with it. It's gonna look that bulky and chunky. So I'm just gonna leave it as is. Put the tabletop on. I think it'll look nice like that. But let's quit talking. Let's get this red felt on. Let's put the accessories on. Let's put the tabletop on, and let's be done with the project. You can tell how eager I am in my voice and how badly I want to get this project over and done with. But sadly, this felt did not go to plan. I've never worked with felt before, but turns out it's a little bit harder to work with. It stretches a lot, and it's hard to get a nice, straight, consistent line. And this was doing my head in. This project's just been failure, fixing mistakes, and just back and forward, just constantly redoing things all the time. So unfortunately, all this felt got ripped out. Right, guys. So messed it up again. This project seems to be a constant stream of mistakes, failures, fixing, correcting things, and it is I feel defeated. I don't feel. I'm in my car right now. I decided to take a step out of the workshop because I was getting very hot-headed. I cut everything out of the video because it's just me being angry, and I don't want to, show my mistakes. Being upset on camera, I can turn it into humor, but when I'm effing and blinding and doing all that stuff, it's not entertaining, is it? So that's been all cut out of the video. Hi guys, welcome back to Brewer Being Made. Now I forgot to record an intro for this video, but so here it is. But the bar is finally done. After so much stress, after so much hassle, it's done. So let's get into the video. Let's get this bar finished. Let's get it over and done with. I'm going insane. So I ran out. I got 2 more pallets. It seems like this thing's taken up so many pallets. I think we're at number 8 or 10 or something like that this thing's made out of. But we went and we cut them all down to size, and this is going to be my solution to the whole felt thing. I'm just not going to use felt. I decided I'm going to clad the inside with pallet wood. I think it'll look really nice. At this point, I was thinking it'd look a bit like, because I have a pallet wood wall in my bedroom, so I was thinking it might look a bit like that. But I think it looked a lot better, and it contrasted really well with the LEDs. But we just did another batch cutting, and I can't tell you how much I dislike batch cutting after this project. You just get filled with sawdust in your lungs, you make a right mess, and yeah, it's not my most favourite thing to do. It's an easy thing to do to make sure you get everything the right size, but yeah. And here I remembered I forgot to square up all the ends. Only one side of these are all square, so I decided to come back and quickly take a very shallow cut on all of them. And running back over to the whole felt idea, I don't think it was a stupid idea. I think I just had a stupid way of going about it. But someone did mention in the comments that felt wouldn't be the best idea because there's going to be a bar. Drinks are going to get spilled on it, and it'll get sticky, horrible, and it'll be hard to clean. So that's why I decided to go with the wood. And you can see there, I made a nice little jig so I could do all this sanding and not have to worry about it sliding all over the place. And then after I got them all sanded, I did 1 coat of just hard wax oil. I only did one side though, because I do plan to use an adhesive like no nails to stick the majority of these boards on. I will be using nails in some areas, but in the main areas where you're going to be looking at it, I just wanted to use no nails because I don't want to see any nail heads, and I wanted it to look as seamless and nice as possible without seeing a bunch of nails and stuff. So hopefully it stands the test of time. I've got a pallet wood wall in my room, and I use no nails to adhere all of them on, and not a single one's fallen off yet. So fingers crossed it's the same situation with this bar. And also I recorded this little segment because I thought it'd be a good idea to, whenever you have an oily rag, go over your chisels and stuff just to give them a nice coat of oil. But after that hard wax hardened, it was horrible to use. It was dead slimy and horrible, and yeah, so I wouldn't do that unless you're using like a mineral oil or something like that to do your projects with, because hard wax oil, it leaves a horrible coating on it. But now we got all the inside finally done and out the way, because that was a massive headache. I'm going to go around and put these threaded inserts in, so I'm just going around drilling all the holes for them, making the holes slightly undersized because threaded inserts have a very slight taper to them. So I want it to be a nice tight fit so the threaded inserts don't pull themselves out. And that's always the best way I've always found to do it, where you don't have to use super glue or anything to keep the threaded inserts in. And now that we have the actual bar finished, I'm going to go around and start adding all the accessories. This is a little beer bottle opener that I just got off Amazon. I think it was only like a $5 or something like that, but it adds a little some extra to it. And then I got these wine rack holders, which I do like the idea of, but these ones that I bought, they're, they move around and stuff. They're a bit tacky, and I don't know. Probably should have found a better way to attach them, but that's what they're like for now. But here is the finished product. I think it came out absolutely stunning, especially after putting the LEDs on. Makes it look a bit like a spaceship at night. I love it. And I really like these big oak, uh, I won't call them slabs, but big oak slabs on top of the tabletop. I really like how they look. I'm glad I managed to try and save that tabletop instead of just scrapping it again, because I really do like how it's not a bunch of boards put together and it just looks like one big board, and I love it. It's great. The wine rack, I think, adds a little something to it, and the LEDs is my favorite part, and the way it all reflects off the wood, it's brilliant. But that's going to be it for this video. I'm sorry it's not as long as my normal videos, but I just wanted to get this one out of the way. But I'm really, really happy with how this turned out. I think it was really worth all the struggle and, going insane. But want to see better projects? Hang around, like, comment, subscribe. See you in the next one.